around. But he's the first one that came here. He decided that he ought to take a big risk and he went to the Melbourne Zoo. Now you know how we're in the top of Australia? Well, Melbourne is like right up underneath. So he went from up here, down there by sea, and he bought baby bulls from India. As a zoo exhibit they were. Brought them back to Weatherby Station. Now that's like the early 30s. That's pretty outrageous. I wouldn't even do it now. You think, oh, what a risk. Okay, he got him to Port Douglas. Now you don't just tell the bulls to go home. You've got to take cows down the mountain to bring the bulls back up. It was all very well planned. Oh, bulls are very obnoxious. You've got to give them what they want. You send the girls down, they go, oh, good-looking heifer. They follow them up the mountain, they put them into the herds here, and they crossbreed. So if you know about your cattle families, if you don't, I'll tell you, you've got Bos Indicus and Bos Taurus. So Bos Indicus are all the Indian and African breeds, Bos Taurus are everything else. So what he effectively did was crossbreed. Today we know that crossbred is drought master. So Brahman Shorthorn cross, and they're tick resistant. So let's have a look through here. They've also got a lovely temperament. This is a nice little drought master steer. Now he's younger than the others. He's smaller. Look how quiet he is. He doesn't care. Look at go right in. Oh, he better be careful. Have a look at him. He's got no horns, so he's known as a cold animal. I should tell you right now, horns are out of fashion. People don't like horns anymore. This is how much we change things on Mother Nature. Horns are out of fashion because they cause bruising. Main reason. But if you've ever worked on the yards in Cook with some pretty nasty cows and the horns have got awfully close, you'll know another reason, safety. And they can kill dogs and horses and you too, so that's another reason. So this round little formed head would never grow horns, and that's the characteristic of a polled animal. He's also got the hump of the Brahman, or the loose skin, but compared to a British animal, he's not hairy and tight-skinned. He's smooth and loose-skinned. Ticks like hairy, tight-skinned cattle. So that's the first win. We've bred them like that for that reason. These animals haven't been done for ticks for many, many months, and we're in a heavily tick-infected area here. Weatherby, like a lot of this area here, is heavily tick-infected. If we had Herefords or Angus here, we'd be dipping them every 3 weeks. Many months since these cattle have had tick treatment. You can see the loose skin. There's a few things about them. We'll talk about him because he'll stand here quietly. But the hump, people ask me what it's for, and only God knows. It means Brahman. So even that sort of temperament through their calves. When we live and work in big areas like this, if we've got cattle that are difficult to handle, we don't see them too often. Maybe once a year, they're hiding out there somewhere. If we've got cattle that are well managed and have a bit of what we call education, it really pays off. If you breed quiet cattle, it's better in the long run. Now compared to that, let's have a look at a more Brahman type. We're already digging in, I see them. Now compared to that last one, this one looks nervous, doesn't it? A little bit nervous. If you have a look at the last, think about the last one, he sort of had a pale nose and pale feet. This one's got the black nose and the black feet on the Brahman. Still no horn. It's something we can actually breed for. We can, just like the crazy cow, we can take the cows with no horns and breed from them. Because horns are actually a recessive gene, so we can breed it out of cattle. If we go and buy some bulls that have got no horns, and we put them in with our cows with horns, a lot of the calves are going to have no horns. So over a period of time we can do that too. We can get rid of the crazy ones, we can get rid of the horns. And then if you're starting to get real fussy, you can colour code the whole herd.
To match your horse.
Once when I first came here, and I've been here nearly about 18 years running this place. So When I first came here, the cows were white, black and brindle. There were some red ones, but there weren't many of them. So gradually we just cleaned them out. And you breed from the red ones. And you let them stay a while to have their babies, but when you're getting a bit mean or a bit short of money, you go, well, I got rid of the crazy ones, and I got rid of the ones that didn't have many calves. Hell, now I'll get rid of everything that isn't red. And you gradually can even it up. Because at the end of the day, when we sell those steer cattle, you send them through the sales here about 40 kilometres away, and the more even looking they are, and you wouldn't believe that you have presentation in cattle, would you? But the more even looking they are, the better they sell. It's all sold about cents per kilo lightweight. So if they're there and they're bidding 1.59, we're talking about $1.59, okay, per kilo live weight. So they weigh the cattle after the sale and multiply it by the weight. But every pen sells differently. There's no weight of the week, there's no government set weight. So if you've got just what they want at the auction, you do better. So when I send them all in, I put all the ones with no horns together that are red and the same size. I've got a few white ones, we put them together. How it works. Got to do your marketing. But you know what, part of it too is temperament. Because if I turn up with a whole lot of cattle that have just been chased by a helicopter, pushed up a truck, upset, chased around, they look like this. Nobody wants to bid on them, because when they get them home, well, they'll bid on them, but they'll pay less money. When they get them home and let them go, they'll gallop off. If they buy cattle that have been handled, and I don't mean patted, but I mean moved around with dogs and horses, they're quiet. Here I educate the weaners, so when they're first taken off their mothers, they get locked up here at about 5 months of age. They get fed, I have a cup of coffee, I read the newspaper with them. After a couple of days they quieten down, they stop bellowing, and their mothers wander off out there somewhere. And finally we've got their attention, and then we just move them around. So when they go into these paddocks, they get that way when you move them around that, hey, it's 5 o'clock, we better run home. And you give them a bit of molasses, because in those years you do feel, in that time you do feed them a bit, you tempt them. A bit of molasses or a bit of coconut meal or something like that, and they do pretty well, but it sticks with them forever. So when we let them go out there in the deep bush, I just ride around going, "Mom!" And they hear that, and they come running out of the bush, and they go, "What do you want?" They hear the car, they hear me call out, they get molasses. It's conditioning, isn't it? So we might have a lot of cattle, but they're not out of control. If they don't turn up and I've got to go looking for them, they're not necessarily lost, they're just late. So amongst these cattle, we've got cattle with horns. We've got cattle out. Have a look at these horns. These ones move. These are known as skirts. They're horns that are not really horns, they're fingernails. So he's still got that little domey round head, you see it? Still soft in the head. And these things, I can pick them up and shake them. So they're known as skirts. Genetically, they're not there. They're not poking anything. If you bump them, they'll just click. Skirts. So sometimes we take them off, sometimes we don't. But generally now with the younger cattle, we take off everything. Now, some of these things you've got to do with animals, they're a bit bloodthirsty. But I've been doing them for so long that I just consider it a necessary evil. So all of that sort of veterinary work and so forth, or even down to stitching them up and putting them back together and the horses and whatever, you become very good at it. I've had certain accreditation over the years. I go and do courses and get tickets for things. So you must become very self-sufficient, because you can't always call the vet. We don't even have a vet. I'm it, whether I like it or not sometimes. And that's good. I mean, I've got a lot of experience behind me, but all of the jobs like taking the horns off and castrating them and a number of other nasty things in the name of cattle husbandry are generally just done once. You do them properly, you do them effectively with clean instruments, you cover them for tetanus, done once. So a job like taking the horn right out, looks a bit like this. I just thought one go past. Have a look at this guy's head. You'll be able to see where his horns were. So you see he's sort of got a flat head compared to the other one. It's flat. And there's two bits taken out. See if we can just get him to turn a little bit and have a look at it. March! Can you also see that he's got a tag in his ear? See the tag there? Okay, so that's like his identification, but it's our property identification code. Now, they've only been around for 12 months. They're called PIC tags, property identification. We've never had anything like this in North Queensland before. You could put your own tag in and you had your little tag you wrapped around their tail when you sold them. But these are, they actually can be scanned with a computer device, and that will pop in, and every time an animal leaves a property now, it's mandatory, even if it goes from my property to my other property, I must put that information into the database. So we don't have to put the tags on